Magnolia Pearl. Whitmore felt her knees strike the wooden platform before she understood what was happening. Silas Blackwood stood 10 paces away, shaking his head at the crowd that had gathered to watch. "I was promised a wife," he said loud enough for every soul to hear. "Not this." A ripple of laughter rose around her. Her torn veil crumpled in her fist. She couldn't draw a single breath. If you're watching from anywhere across America, tell me in the comments which town you're tuning in from. I want to see how far Magnolia's story travels. And hit that subscribe button, friend, because what that stranger in the dusty hat did next changed absolutely everything. The laughter came in waves, and each wave felt colder than the last. Magnolia stayed on her knees because her legs would not obey her. She heard someone say, "Lord have mercy, look at her," and someone else answer, "Reckon he's got eyes, that's the whole trouble." She pressed her palm flat against the splintered boards of the platform and tried to find the pieces of herself that hadn't broken yet. Silas Blackwood took another step back. He was a handsome man in a gray traveling suit, and he wore the look of a person who had just discovered a dead rat in his supper bowl. "Silas, please," Magnolia whispered. "Please, not in front of—" "Don't you Silas me." His voice rose. "You wrote to me. You said you were 22 and fair-complected and suitable for a man of standing. You sent a picture woman." "I sent the picture my mother took 4 years ago." 4 years ago, Silas repeated, turning to the crowd as though inviting them into a trial. 4 years ago. And in those 4 years, it appears my bride took up residence at the supper table and never got up. The laughter cracked open wider. A man in a bowler hat slapped his thigh. Magnolia's throat closed around something hot. She had traveled 940 miles by train. She had slept sitting upright for 3 nights so her dress would not wrinkle. She had eaten 1 biscuit a day since Missouri to save her money for the hotel bill she was sure Silas would not cover. She had rehearsed the first words she would say to him, and now those words were dying somewhere in her chest, like a bird that had forgotten how to fly. "I am," she said, and her voice cracked and had to start again. "I am the same woman who wrote those letters." "No, ma'am, you ain't." "My heart is the same heart." Silas gave a short, ugly laugh. "Your heart ain't what I'm looking at." A woman near the ticket window covered her mouth with a gloved hand, but her shoulders were shaking with amusement. The station master, a thin fellow with spectacles, looked at the floor and said nothing. Nobody said anything. Not one person stepped forward. Magnolia lowered her head. The veil in her fist was Belgian lace. Her mother had sewn it by lamplight over the course of 1 whole winter, before the consumption took her. Magnolia had worn it on the train because she wanted to arrive already, a bride already promised already someone. She had not wanted to get off that train as just a woman alone. "Silas," she said, and her voice was so small now it was barely a voice at all. "I spent my last $4 on this ticket." "Then I suggest you find work as a washwoman. Heaven knows you've got the arms for it." Somebody whooped. Magnolia closed her eyes. Ezekiel Thornfield had been standing at the edge of the platform for 7 minutes. He had come into town that morning for a sack of nails and a pound of coffee and a conversation with the bank that he already knew how it was going to end. He had not come to watch a stranger die in public, but that was what this was. He had seen men bleed out after a bad fall, and he had seen his own wife slip away from him 2 summers ago in the back bedroom of their little ranch house. And he knew what a person looked like when they were going under. That woman on the platform was going under. Zeke's hand tightened on the brim of the hat he held against his chest. "Coward," he said quiet enough that only the fence post beside him heard it. "You low, rotten, yellow-bellied coward." He was 34 years old, 6 feet and 1 inch tall, and he weighed 162 pounds because he had been skipping his noon meal for the better part of a year so his cattle could have the last of the feed. He had $311 to his name. The bank wanted $418 by the 1st of September, or they would take the ranch his father had broken his back to build. His boots had been resoled twice. The left one was going to need a third. Zeke Thornfield had no business proposing marriage to any woman, and he knew it. But he also knew he could not stand here and watch this. He put his hat back on his head and stepped forward. "Mr. Blackwood," Zeke said. Silas turned. "Do I know you?" "No, sir, and I don't reckon you want to." Zeke walked past Silas without slowing and knelt down on one knee beside Magnolia. He did not touch her. He was very careful about that. "Ma'am," he said, "my name's Ezekiel Thornfield. Folks call me Zeke." Magnolia did not look up. "I'd like to offer you my arm, ma'am, if you'll take it. And I'd like to stand you up because the boards here are awful hard on a lady's knees." "You don't know me, sir," she whispered. "No, ma'am, I don't." "Then why are you—" "Because nobody else is." A muscle moved in her jaw. She still did not look up. Behind Zeke, Silas made a disbelieving sound. "What in the devil do you think you're doing, stranger?" Zeke did not turn around. He kept his eyes on the woman in the ruined dress. "Ma'am," he said again, gentler. "My arm's right here. You don't have to take it, but it's here." Slowly, so slowly, Magnolia reached up. Her hand was trembling. She set her fingers against Zeke's forearm, the way a person might set a hand against a rope they were not sure would hold. Zeke rose with her. He did it careful, the way a man rises with a wounded calf bearing the weight so she didn't have to. When she was on her feet, he kept her steady for a breath longer than he needed to, and then he let go. "Thank you," Magnolia whispered. "Don't thank me yet, ma'am." He turned around. Silas Blackwood was still standing there, and his face had gone the color of boiled ham. "Mister," Silas said, "you're interfering in a private matter." "A private matter." Zeke nodded slowly. "Private matter right out here in front of the Lord and 16 townsfolk and the 315 to Cheyenne. This woman misrepresented herself to me. Mr. Blackwood, I've been on this platform 7 minutes. What I seen wasn't a woman misrepresenting nothing. What I seen was a man who ain't got the spine God gave a field mouse." Somebody in the crowd gasped. Silas's hand went to his belt. "You best watch your mouth, stranger." "I've been watching it my whole life, sir. Comes natural by now." Zeke took one step forward. Just one. "You tell me something, Mr. Blackwood. Did this woman ride 900 miles on your word?" Silas didn't answer. "Did she? Did she come here?" Zeke said, "Because you promised her a home." "I promised her what was advertised." "Advertised?" Zeke's mouth pulled into something that was not a smile. "Sir, I reckon advertised is a word for hogs and lumber. Ain't a word for a person." The station master coughed into his fist. Silas took a step back. He was looking at Zeke's hands now, and at the way Zeke was standing, and at something in Zeke's eyes that hadn't been there a minute ago. "I want my ticket fare refunded," Silas said, weaker now. "She owes me her ticket fare." "Does she?" $11.50. Zeke reached into his vest pocket. He counted out $12, 12 of his 311, and he held them out in his flat palm. "There," he said. "Now there's 50 cents interest for your trouble. You take it and you get on that train and you do not turn around, because I am telling you, Mr. Blackwood, there will not be a better offer made to you today." Silas snatched the money. His fingers were shaking. "You're welcome to her," he spat. "You'll be sorry within the week." "That may be, sir, but at least I'll be the kind of sorry a man can live with." Silas Blackwood walked to the end of the platform without another word. He did not look at Magnolia. The 315 whistle blew, and he climbed aboard, and he was gone. The crowd did not move. Zeke turned back to Magnolia. She was standing where he had left her, both arms wrapped around her middle, the veil still crushed in one fist. "Ma'am," he said, "why did you give him your money? Because you don't owe that man anything, and I wasn't going to have him leave this station thinking you did." Her eyes finally lifted to his. They were brown, warm brown, the color of creek bottom in August. They were also swollen from crying and full of a shame so deep Zeke felt it in his own chest. "I have nowhere to go," she said. "I know it." "I have $4 left." "I know that too, ma'am. I can't." Her voice broke clean in half. "I can't go back. My mother is dead. My father has a new wife, and she told me before I left that if I was not married by summer's end, I was not to return. I have nowhere. I have nowhere." Zeke Thornfield took his hat off his head. He held it in both hands against his chest the way his father had taught him to hold it when speaking to a woman who deserved respect. "Miss Whitmore," he said, "I don't know you. You don't know me. And I am not a good bet for any woman. My ranch is 40 miles out. It is failing. I owe the bank more than I can pay. My house has 2 rooms and a leak in the roof I ain't fixed yet. I am a widower, and I buried her 2 years ago come September, and I have not looked at a woman since." Magnolia was staring at him. "But ma'am," Zeke swallowed, "I have a roof, such as it is. I have a stove. I have a bed with clean sheets, and if you take it, I will sleep in the barn until you say otherwise. I have coffee, and I have flour, and I have a cow that still gives barely. And I have a name that ain't worth much, but is my own. Sir, Miss Whitmore, I am asking you to marry me." The crowd, which had been whispering, fell dead silent. Magnolia's hand went to her throat. "Today," Zeke said. "Right now. The justice is 2 blocks from here. I ain't asking you to love me. I ain't asking you anything. I am asking you to let me keep a roof over your head because I cannot walk away from this platform knowing what I know. You don't even know my Christian name. Then I'd be obliged if you'd tell it to me, ma'am." She stared at him. A tear ran down her cheek and she did not wipe it. "Magnolia," she whispered. "Magnolia Pearl." Zeke inclined his head. "Miss Magnolia Pearl Whitmore, would you do me the honor?" For a long moment, she could not speak at all. "Sir," she said finally, "you cannot want this. You are doing this out of pity, and I will not be any man's pity, not even today, not even like this. Ma'am, I already told you. I am a widower with a failing ranch and a leaking roof. If I was a pitying man, I'd have pitied myself a long time ago and saved you the trouble." "Then why?" Zeke was quiet. He looked down at the hat in his hands. He turned it slowly. "Because," he said, "I stood here 7 minutes before I stepped forward. 7 minutes, Miss Whitmore. And I am going to carry those 7 minutes the rest of my life. I cannot carry any more than that." Magnolia's eyes filled again. "And because," he said lower, "my wife used to say that a person's worth ain't decided by who's willing to stand beside him. She said worth is decided by the person themselves, and everybody else is just catching up or falling behind. I figure today I'd like to be catching up. Mr. Thornfield. Zeke." "Zeke." She said the name like a person tasting a word in a language she was only just learning. "Zeke. I am not the woman in that picture. I am never going to be the woman in that picture. If you stand me up in front of a justice today, you are going to wake up tomorrow married to this." "Ma'am," Zeke said, "I've been looking at this for 10 minutes, and I'd be proud to wake up tomorrow married to her." A woman in the crowd made a small wet sound. Someone else muttered, "Well, I'll be." Magnolia closed her eyes. Her whole body was trembling, and she looked very small and very tired and very alone. "I have nothing to offer you," she whispered. "You got your name, ma'am. That's enough to start with." She opened her eyes. "All right," she said. Zeke did not smile. He did not reach for her hand. He just nodded once, the way a man nods when a deal is struck that he intends to keep. "All right," he said. He walked her off the platform at her own pace. He did not offer his arm again until she reached for it, and when she did, he laid his free hand over hers, the way a person might lay a hand over a small bird, just long enough to steady it. The crowd parted. Nobody laughed now. One old woman whispered, "God bless," and Magnolia could not tell if it was meant kindly or cruelly, and she was too tired to decide. They had walked half the block when a man stepped out of the doorway of the freight office and blocked their path. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, dressed better than anyone Magnolia had seen so far in this town. His coat was black broadcloth. His boots shone. He had a signet ring on his little finger and a smile that did not reach any part of his face above the mustache. "Well, well," he said. "Ezekiel Thornfield. And who is this charming creature on your arm?" Zeke's whole body went still. Magnolia felt it through his sleeve. Something inside him had gone tight as a strung wire. "Mr. Ashford," Zeke said. "Bartholomew, please. We're neighbors after all." The tall man's eyes moved over Magnolia slowly, the way a man might appraise a yearling heifer at auction. "Miss, I don't believe we've been introduced." "She ain't for introducing, Mr. Ashford. Step aside, please." Now, Zeke, is that any way to speak to a friend?" "You ain't a friend, sir." Bartholomew Ashford smiled wider. His teeth were very white and very straight. "I heard tell you were coming into town to speak with the bank today, Zeke. I do hope they gave you good news. I'd hate to see that pretty little ranch of yours change hands so soon after your poor Eliza passed. Wouldn't be fitting." Magnolia felt Zeke's arm tremble once hard, and then go still again. "Step aside, sir," Zeke said quietly. Of course. Ashford stepped back. He tipped his hat to Magnolia. "Miss, if you ever find yourself in need of more generous company, you come see me. The Ashford house is the big white one at the north end of Main Street. You can't miss it." He gave Zeke a long smiling look. "I do believe," he said, "that this summer is going to be the most interesting one this valley has seen in years." And he turned and walked away. Magnolia waited until he was out of earshot. Then she looked up at the man she had agreed somehow to marry within the hour. "Zeke," she whispered. "Who was that?" Zeke Thornfield did not take his eyes off Bartholomew Ashford's retreating back. "Ma'am," he said. "That was the man who's been trying to kill my ranch for 2 years." Magnolia's fingers tightened on his sleeve. And somewhere down the street, the bell of the town church began slowly and evenly to ring the hour. Zeke listened to the bell strike 3. "That's the justice closing up for his dinner hour," he said. "We got 10 minutes, ma'am. Maybe less." "10 minutes to what, sir?" "To be married, if you still want it." Magnolia's hand had not left his sleeve since Ashford walked away. She could feel her own pulse against the broadcloth. "Zeke." "Yes, ma'am." "That man, Mr. Ashford, he looked at me like he already knew my name. He looks at every woman that way." "No, sir. No, that was different." Zeke glanced down at her. The muscle in his jaw tightened and released. "Tell me later, ma'am. Please. Right now we got a justice to catch before he locks up for a plate of beans." She walked. Her knees were shaking so hard she did not trust them, but she walked, and Zeke matched her pace without once asking her to move faster. The justice of the peace was a heavy-set man named Otis Brenner, who was already pulling his coat off the hook when Zeke banged through the door. "I'm closing up Thornfield. I need 15 minutes of your time, Otis. My dinner's on the table. Your dinner'll keep. This won't." Otis Brenner looked past Zeke to the woman in the torn wedding dress. His mouth opened, then closed. "Lord in heaven," he said. "What in the world, Zeke? Just a license, Otis. Just the words. Just your signature." "Son, is this the bride they was talking about down at the telegraph office, the one Blackwood put back on the—" "Just the words, Otis, please." The justice looked at Magnolia a long moment. Then he set his coat back on the hook. "Sit down, ma'am," he said gently. "You look like you could stand to." Magnolia sat. Her hands would not stop trembling. Zeke did not sit. He stood beside the chair, with his hat in his hands, watching her the way a man watches a pot he is afraid will boil over. "All right," Otis said. "Names for the certificate. Ezekiel Amos Thornfield. Magnolia Pearl Whitmore. Age, Miss, 26. Zeke turned his head at that. She had written 22 in her letters to Silas. She did not look at Zeke when she said the true number, but she felt him look at her, and she felt him not say a word about it, and something inside her chest cracked open just a hair. "Any impediment to this marriage on either side?" "No, sir." "No, sir." "Mr. Thornfield, do you take this woman?" "I do." "Miss Whitmore, do you take this man?" Her voice would not come. She tried twice. The third time it came out so small the justice had to lean forward. I do. By the authority vested in me by the territory of Wyoming, I pronounce you man and wife. Sign here and here." Zeke signed. Magnolia signed. The pen shook in her hand, and she left a small dark blot beside her name, and she was certain in that moment that her whole life, from this day forward, would be a thing marked by small dark blots beside her name, and she did not know whether to weep for it or laugh. $5 for the license, Otis said. Zeke counted out the coins without a word. He was down to $294 now. Out on the street, Magnolia stopped walking. Zeke, "Yes, ma'am." "I want to tell you something before we go another step." "All right." "I told Silas Blackwood I was 22 because I was 26 and unmarried, and I was afraid no man would answer my letter if I told the truth." Her chin was up. Her eyes were wet, but her chin was up. "I will not start a marriage on a lie, sir. Not even a small one. Not even one you did not ask about." Zeke was quiet for a long beat. "Ma'am," he said, "I am 34 years old, and I owe the bank $418, and I have not slept a full night since my wife died. If you want to start this marriage, even I reckon we're even." Magnolia swallowed hard. "All right," she said. "All right." He walked her to the livery. He had come into town in a wagon pulled by a sorrel mare with a blaze down her nose. He lifted Magnolia up to the seat with more care than she expected, one hand light at her elbow, the other never crossing a line a husband of 10 minutes had no right to cross. He did not speak for the first 5 miles. Magnolia watched his hands on the reins. They were brown hands, roped with vein, and the nails were clean, but the knuckles were split in 3 places and healing. "Zeke." "Ma'am." "You can call me Magnolia." "I reckon I'll work up to it, ma'am." She almost smiled. She had not almost smiled in so long she had forgotten what it felt like in the corners of her mouth. "Tell me about your ranch." "It's called the Bar T. My daddy built it in '69. He run it till he died in '84. I took it over. I married Eliza that same year. She passed 2 summers ago from the fever that come through here. We didn't have children. We wanted to. Didn't happen. I am sorry." "Thank you, ma'am. Tell me about the ranch itself." 240 acres. Good water. 1 creek, 1 spring. Grass is thin this year on account of the drought. I got 71 head of cattle left. Had 120 in the spring. Some I sold. Some I lost. The ones I lost were not lost by accident, ma'am, and that's the truth." "Ashford." "Ashford. Tell me about him." Zeke's hands tightened on the reins. "His father was a judge in Denver, died rich. Bartholomew come out here 5 years ago with more money than sense and bought up the Kensington spread next to mine. He's added to it every year since. He has bought out the Petersons, the Wallaces, the old Dutch couple that used to keep bees. All of them sold to him. All of them sold cheap. All of them sold because strange things started happening to their livestock and their fences and their wells. And your cattle. My cattle have been dying in ways cattle don't die, ma'am. I had a bull go into a gully last March and break his neck, and there were rope marks on his hind leg when I got to him. I had a heifer turn up in the creek so bloated I couldn't tell what killed her. I had 3 yearlings just disappear. Disappear, ma'am. 71 cattle left." "Have you told the sheriff?" "Sheriff Dalton is a good man, but his wife's people owe Ashford money, and his brother sharecrops land that used to belong to Ashford's father, and he is as much use to me as a wet match." Magnolia was quiet. "Zeke." "Ma'am?" "Why did Ashford look at me the way he did?" "I do not know, but I aim to find out." They rode another hour in a silence that was not uncomfortable. When the wagon turned up a rutted track and she saw the ranch house for the first time, Magnolia did not say anything for a long moment. It was smaller than she had pictured. The roof was patched in 2 places with tin. The porch sagged on the left side. The barn beyond was sturdier than the house, which told her a great deal about the man she had just married before he said a single word to explain. "It ain't much," Zeke said. "Sir, it is a home. It is a leaking, crooked, broke-down home, ma'am. Sir, I spent last night on the floor of a train car with my head on a sack of mail. Do not apologize to me for a home. Zeke's hands went still on the reins. He did not look at her. He looked straight ahead at his own front door for a long moment, and his throat worked once. "All right, ma'am," he said quietly. "All right." He helped her down. He showed her the 2 rooms. He showed her the stove and the pump and the clean sheets on the bed he had made up 3 days ago, for no reason he could name at the time. He showed her the trunk at the foot of the bed that held his wife's things, and he said, "I have not opened this in 2 years. You do with it what you want. It is yours now." "Zeke, I cannot." "It is yours now, ma'am. A woman ought to have a trunk of her own in her own house. Eliza would not have wanted that trunk sitting closed in a room with a woman who had no trunk." Magnolia turned away so he would not see her eyes. "I will make supper," she said. "Ma'am, you have been on a train for 3 days." "I will make supper, Zeke." He did not argue with her. She made supper with what she found: flour, salt, lard, coffee, a jar of pickled beets, 4 eggs, and a small slab of bacon that she stretched further than any woman had a right to stretch bacon. She made biscuits. She boiled the coffee. She fried the eggs in the bacon grease. She set 2 plates on the table, and she sat down across from him, and neither of them said a word for the first 3 bites. "Ma'am?" "Yes." "These are the best biscuits I have ate in my life." "Zeke, you are being kind." "Ma'am, I have eaten my own biscuits for 2 summers. I am not being kind. I am being saved." She laughed. It was a small broken laugh, and it did not last long, but it was a laugh, the first one she had made in longer than she could remember, and Zeke looked up from his plate at the sound of it, like a man who had not known there was music in the room. They cleared the plates together. He washed, she dried, because she had said, "You will wash. My hands are raw enough." And he had not argued. "Zeke." "Yes, ma'am." "Where are you sleeping tonight?" "Barn, ma'am, like I said." "Zeke." "Ma'am." "It is August. The barn is full of flies, and you have a pitchfork for a pillow." "I have slept worse." "You have not slept worse in your own house, sir." "Ma'am, I told you on the platform I would sleep in the barn until you said otherwise." "Then I am saying otherwise." He stopped with a plate in his hand. "Not the bed, Zeke. Do not mistake me. You sleep on the floor in front of the stove, and I will sleep in the bed, and we will be a married couple under one roof, and we will figure the rest of it out as we go." "Ma'am." "Zeke, that is the kindest thing a person has said to me since my wife was alive." "Then do not make me say it twice." He nodded once, and he did not speak again for a long time. She was unpacking the 1 small carpet bag she had brought when she heard the horse. "Zeke." "I hear him, ma'am. Stay inside." "Zeke who?" "Stay inside, Magnolia." He said her name for the first time. She did not notice it until much later. She watched from the window. The rider was a thin man with a long coat and a rifle across his saddle, and he did not dismount. "Evening, Thornfield." "Evening, Creed." "Mr. Ashford sends his congratulations on your nuptials." "Does he now?" "He also sends word that the offer on the bar tea stands, $600, cash in hand, tomorrow if you want it." "Tell him I ain't selling." "Mr. Ashford thought you might say that. He said to tell you that the offer drops $20 every week you refuse it." "Tell him I ain't selling." "He also said—" The man called Creed leaned forward in his saddle and smiled with half his mouth. "He also said to tell your new bride that the Ashford house has 3 stories and a piano and a woman who comes 3 times a week to do the laundry, in case she wants to know what she turned down." Zeke did not move. "Creed." "Yeah, Thornfield." "You get off my property." I'm going. You get off my property, and you tell your boss that the next man he sends up this road, I am not going to send back." Creed's smile widened. "Is that a threat, Thornfield?" "That is a promise, Creed. And you tell him I said so." The rider tipped his hat. He turned his horse. He was gone in under a minute, and Zeke stood in the yard with his hands loose at his sides for a long time before he came back inside. "Zeke." "Ma'am." "Did that man say Ashford sent his congratulations on our nuptials?" "He did." "We have been married 4 hours, Zeke." "I know it." How does a man 40 miles away know we have been married 4 hours? I've been asking myself that same question since the wagon turned up the drive. She sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. Zeke, that man on the platform, Silas Blackwood, how did he come to write to me in the first place? Ma'am, I answered a mail-order advertisement in a St. Louis paper. It said a gentleman of standing in the Wyoming Territory sought a suitable wife. It said to direct correspondence to a post office box in Cheyenne. Zeke's face did not change for a long moment. Then it went very still in a way that she had seen once before, on the street outside the freight office when Ashford had stepped into their path. Ma'am? Yes. What post office box? Cheyenne, number 11. Zeke sat down in the chair across from her very slowly. Ma'am, he said, Post office box 11 in Cheyenne is rented in the name of Bartholomew Ashford. Magnolia's hand went to her mouth. Zeke. I know it. Zeke, that man on the platform. I do not think Silas Blackwood was ever real, ma'am. What are you saying? I am saying that somebody wrote those letters to you using a man's name that may or may not belong to an actual person, and that somebody paid for your train ticket in part or in whole, and that somebody knew you were coming, and that somebody knew what you looked like, and that somebody arranged for you to arrive on this exact platform on this exact day. But why? Because I was in town today, ma'am. Because the whole valley knew I was going to be in town today to see the bank. I do not understand. Magnolia. He leaned forward. His voice was low and steady and more frightening for it. If Silas Blackwood had taken you home as his bride, I would have stood on that platform and seen a woman rejected by a stranger, and I would have felt pity, and I would have gone back to my ranch and been sad about it for an hour and then forgot her name. That is what men do, ma'am, and I ain't proud of it, but that is what I would have done. But Silas Blackwood did not take you home. Silas Blackwood rejected you in front of every soul in that town. Silas Blackwood made sure that every person on that platform watched him throw you into the dirt. Zeke? Somebody knew I was going to be on that platform today, and somebody knew that if I stood there long enough and watched what was happening, I was going to step forward. Somebody bet $3 on a train ticket and a torn dress that I would step forward. No. Yes, ma'am. But why? Why would any man go to such trouble to do what? To see me married? Zeke Thornfield looked at her across the little table in the little house that had belonged to his father, and his father's father, and his eyes were the saddest eyes she had ever seen on a living man. Because, he said, a widower with a failing ranch ain't got much to lose, ma'am, but a married man with a wife to feed and to shelter and to protect, that man has got everything to lose. And a man with everything to lose, ma'am, will sell his land for $600 cash when the offer was $1,000 the week before. Because he will have to. Magnolia stared at him. Her hands had gone cold in her lap. He wanted you married, she whispered. He wanted you married to somebody. To anybody. To use. Yes, ma'am. And I am the somebody. You are the somebody he chose, ma'am. And the reason he chose you, I do not yet know. But I aim to. She pressed her fists against her mouth. Her whole body had started to shake again the way it had shaken on the platform, and she could not get it to stop. Zeke. Yes. I am so sorry. Ma'am, you got nothing to be sorry for. I am so sorry I walked onto your land. He came around the table then. He did not touch her. He knelt down on the floor beside her chair, the same way he had knelt beside her on the platform 6 hours before, and he put his hat on the floor, and he spoke very quietly. Magnolia Pearl Thornfield. She looked at him. That is the first time I have said your married name out loud, he said. And I am saying it because you are my wife now, and because whatever that man Ashford thought he was doing when he bought you a train ticket, he made one mistake that he is going to regret every single day of what remains of his miserable life. What mistake, Zeke? He gave me something to fight for, ma'am. I did not have that yesterday. I have it today. She put her hand over her mouth. Outside, a dog she had not yet met began to bark low and steady at something moving along the south fence line. And in the trunk at the foot of the bed, the trunk Zeke had not opened in 2 years, the trunk he had given to her, without knowing what was inside it. A letter lay folded at the bottom beneath a cotton nightgown. A letter Eliza Thornfield had written on the last evening of her life, and had never had the chance to send, addressed in a woman's careful hand to the sheriff of Laramie County, and beginning with the words, "If I am dead when you read this, it was not the fever that killed me." The dog did not stop barking. "Zeke, that dog!" "I hear him, ma'am." "Is that normal?" "No, ma'am, it is not." He was already reaching for the rifle above the door. He did not hurry. A man who hurried with a rifle was a man who got somebody killed, and Zeke Thornfield had learned that lesson a long time ago from his father, who had learned it from his. "Stay inside. Bar the door behind me. Zeke, Magnolia, bar the door." She barred it. Her hands shook so hard she had to use both of them on the drop bar, and she stood with her forehead pressed against the wood and listened to her husband's boots cross the porch and go down into the yard. The dog barked twice more and then stopped. Magnolia counted her heartbeats. She got to 42 before she heard Zeke's voice call low from the yard. "Whoever you are, you step out where I can see you. You step out right now, or I will start shooting at shadows, and I will not apologize for what I hit." Silence. "I am counting to 3, sir." A long, thin silence. 1. Nothing. 2. A rustle. Then a boy's voice, young and cracking, calling from somewhere beyond the fence line. "Don't shoot, Mr. Thornfield. It's me. It's Tommy Peterson." "Tommy." "Yes, sir." "Tommy, you come on out where I can see you. Hands where I can see them." "Yes, sir." Magnolia heard her husband exhale long and slow, and then she heard him say in a voice that was not kind, "Boy, what in the good Lord's name are you doing on my property at this hour?" "My ma sent me, Mr. Thornfield." "Your ma sent you 40 miles across the territory at night?" "No, sir. My ma sent me 4 miles from Ashford's north cabin where she's been working as laundress since Pa passed." Silence. "Tommy?" "Yes, sir." "You tell me why your mother sent you to me, boy." "She said to tell you, sir, that there is a man come to stay at Mr. Ashford's house tonight. Come in on the 3:15 from Cheyenne. Tall man. Gray traveling suit." Magnolia's breath stopped in her chest. "Tommy, say that again." "Tall man in a gray suit, sir. My ma said you was to know. She said to tell you the gray suit man is sitting right now in Mr. Ashford's parlor drinking brandy, and Mr. Ashford give him an envelope, and she seen the envelope, and it had $300 inside it. She seen it, sir. She was polishing the sideboard when he counted it out." Inside the house, Magnolia sank down slowly with her back against the door. She pressed both hands flat over her mouth. Silas Blackwood had not gotten on a train to anywhere. Silas Blackwood had walked to the edge of town, gotten into a buggy, and ridden to Bartholomew Ashford's house to collect his pay. "Tommy." "Yes, Mr. Thornfield." "You tell your mother I am obliged. You tell her I will not forget it. You tell her if she hears one more word tonight, anything at all, she is to get word to me before sunrise." "Yes, sir." "Boy, how did you get here?" "Walked, sir." "You walked 4 miles at night." "Yes, sir." "Come in the house. You eat before you walk back." "Ma said I wasn't to—" "Boy, you come in this house right now, or I will carry you in." Magnolia unbarred the door. Tommy Peterson could not have been more than 11 years old. He was thin as a fence rail, and his shirt was 2 sizes too big, and when he stepped into the light and saw Magnolia standing there in her torn wedding dress, his eyes went very wide and he pulled his hat off his head so fast he nearly dropped it. "Ma'am," he said, "I am sorry for the hour." "Sit down, Tommy. Sit down at this table." "Ma'am, I can't." "Sit." He sat. She cut him a biscuit in half and split it with the last of the bacon grease and set it in front of him, and the boy ate it in 4 bites and would not meet her eyes. "Tommy." "Yes, ma'am." "Your ma. What is her name?" "Ruth, ma'am. Ruth Peterson." "Tommy, does Mr. Ashford know your mother was a Peterson before she came to work for him?" The boy looked up. Something shifted in his young face. "Ma'am, he made her change her name when she took the work. She goes by Ruth Miller at the house." "He don't know. Nobody there knows." Zeke's hand came down gently on Magnolia's shoulder. Smart woman, your mother. Yes, sir, she is. Tommy, your father. What happened to your father? The boy's mouth worked. Fell off the barn roof, sir. Mr. Ashford said it was an accident. Said Pa had been drinking. Pa didn't drink, sir. My pa didn't ever drink. Zeke's hand tightened on Magnolia's shoulder. How long ago, son? 2 years come October, sir. 2 years. Yes, sir. 2 years. 2 years, and Eliza Thornfield had died of a fever in the fall of the same year, and Hiram Peterson had fallen off his own barn roof, sober, and both of them on property that Bartholomew Ashford now owned, or wanted to own. Tommy. Sir. You finish that biscuit. Then I am driving you back myself. Part way. You will get off the wagon a mile from the cabin and walk in the rest. Your ma cannot be seen with me tonight. You understand? Yes, sir. Good boy. Zeke drove him out. Magnolia stood on the porch and watched the wagon go, and when it was out of sight, she turned back inside and looked at the trunk at the foot of the bed. She looked at it for a long time. Eliza, she said to nobody. Eliza Thornfield, I am sorry. I am going to open this trunk, ma'am, because I believe there is something in it you would want a wife of this house to know. She knelt. She lifted the lid. The smell of cedar came up first. Then lavender faint years old. A woman's good dress folded on top, pale blue with tiny white buttons down the front. A cotton nightgown beneath it. A set of hair combs wrapped in paper. A small embroidered handkerchief with the initials E.M.T. stitched in the corner. And beneath the nightgown, flat against the cedar bottom of the trunk, a folded sheet of paper sealed with a drop of candle wax. Magnolia's hands shook. She broke the seal. If I am dead, when you read this, it was not the fever that killed me. My name is Eliza May Thornfield, born Eliza May. Brennan and I am writing this on the 27th of September, in the year of our Lord, 1894. I have been sick for 3 days. Dr. Holbrook came this morning and said it was the summer fever and that I should rest. I am resting. But I am also writing this because I have not told my husband what I know, and if I do not live to tell him, I want somebody to know. 3 weeks ago, on the evening of the 6th of September, I rode to town for flour, and I saw Bartholomew Ashford in the back room of the Mercantile in conversation with Dr. Holbrook. They did not see me. I heard Mr. Ashford say to the doctor, "The Thornfield woman is the last piece. Her husband will not sell while she is alive. He sells if she is not." I heard Dr. Holbrook say, "I will not." I heard Mr. Ashford say, "You will because your son in Denver is in debt to men who break fingers." I rode home. I did not tell my husband because I did not want him to ride into town with a gun and be hanged for a murder I could prevent. I am sick now. I have been sick for 3 days. This morning Dr. Holbrook came to the house and gave me a bottle of brown medicine and told me to take 2 spoonfuls every 4 hours. I took 1 spoonful and it burned my throat in a way medicine does not burn. I have not taken another. I have poured the rest into the jar I am sealing with this letter. If I die, Sheriff, you will find the jar in the trunk at the foot of the bed. I pray I live to burn this letter and laugh at my own foolishness. If I do not, I beg of you, do not let my husband stand alone against that man. Eliza May Thornfield. Magnolia read the letter 3 times. She did not move after the 3rd reading. She sat on the floor with the letter in her lap, and her other hand reached slowly down into the trunk beneath the folded nightgown, and her fingers found the small glass jar wrapped in a piece of muslin at the very bottom, exactly where a dying woman had said it would be. She lifted the jar out. It was half full of a thick brown liquid, and the cork was sealed with the same drop of candle wax that had sealed the letter. Magnolia put the jar on the floor in front of her, and she pressed both hands flat against her own chest, and she tried to breathe. She was still sitting there when Zeke's wagon came back up the drive an hour later. She heard his boots on the porch. She heard him set the rifle down. She heard him speak to the dog. "Magnolia, I'm back. You all right, ma'am?" Zeke. Something in her voice. He knew it. She heard him cross the room in 3 strides. Magnolia, what? He stopped in the doorway. He saw the open trunk. He saw the letter. He saw the jar. He did not move for a very long time. Zeke. Ma'am. Zeke, you need to sit down. Is that... Zeke, please sit down. He sat down. He sat down on the edge of the bed like a man whose knees had stopped working, and he looked at the jar on the floor, and he did not say anything. Zeke, your wife left a letter. She left a letter for the sheriff. She wrote it the day before she died. Read it to me. Zeke, Magnolia, read it to me, please. She read it to him. Her voice broke twice. His face did not change. When she finished, he held out his hand, and she placed the letter into it, and he read it again. Himself, silently moving his lips around the words his wife had written, with her own shaking hand, in the last hours of her life. When he was done, he folded it very carefully along its original creases. Zeke, give me a minute, ma'am. Zeke, please, just a minute. She gave him a minute. He sat on the edge of the bed with the folded letter in his hands and his shoulders bent forward, and he did not make a sound, but his whole body was shaking like a man in the grip of a silent fever, and Magnolia thought, this is what grief looks like when a man has already buried a woman and discovers he must bury her again. When he finally spoke, his voice was gravel. 2 years. Zeke! 2 years I thought it was the fever. 2 years I sat across from Holbrook at church suppers. 2 years I let that man put his hand on my shoulder at the graveside and tell me she went peaceful. Zeke, you could not have known. She knew. She rode home from town that night, and she knew, and she did not tell me, because she thought I would get myself hanged. She was protecting you. She was dying, Magnolia. She was dying, and she was protecting me. Zeke, and I let her. You did not let her anything. You did not know. He put his face in his hands. Magnolia did not touch him. She wanted to. She did not. A wife of 9 hours did not have the right yet, and she knew it, and she waited. When he lowered his hands, his eyes were red, but his jaw was set. Magnolia. Yes. Get up off that floor. Sit down across from me. She got up. She sat down. I am going to tell you what is going to happen now. And you are going to tell me if you want any part of it. And if you do not, I will put you on a train to wherever you want to go tomorrow morning, with enough money to see you there, and I will not hold it against you, and I will not think less of you. Do you understand me? Zeke. Magnolia. Do you understand me? Yes. Ashford killed my wife. He did it through Holbrook. He has been trying to kill my ranch for 2 years because my wife would not sell, and now because I will not sell. He paid a man $300 to put you on a train so I would marry you and have somebody to lose. He did not know my wife had written this letter. He does not know this jar exists. Zeke, I am going to take this letter and this jar to Judge Corwin in Laramie. Not the sheriff, not Dalton. Corwin was my father's friend. He will not be bought. Laramie is 90 miles. I know it. Ashford will have men watching every road out of this valley. I know that too. Zeke, he will kill you before you get 20 miles. He will try. He will not just try. Magnolia, you are asking me to sit in this house with my wife's confession on my kitchen table and do nothing. I am not asking you to do nothing, Zeke Thornfield. I am asking you to do it with me. He looked up. What? You said you would put me on a train. I am telling you I'm not getting on a train. Magnolia. Zeke, that man paid for my ticket. That man bought me for $3 like I was a length of rope. That man stood in the doorway of the freight office today and looked at me like he already owned me. I am not getting on a train, sir. I am going to Laramie with you. Ma'am, you do not know what you are saying. Do not do that, Zeke. Do not do that to me. I know exactly what I am saying. A woman cannot ride 90 miles through... A woman rode 940 miles alone to marry a stranger 2 days ago. A woman can ride 90 more. He stared at her. Magnolia Pearl? Zeke Amos. You are a stubborn woman. I am your wife. The words sat between them on the little table, and neither one of them moved. Neither one of them reached for the other. They just looked across a distance of 3 feet of scrubbed pine and 2 years of Ashford's patient cruelty, and something passed between them that was not love, not yet, not anywhere close, but was the beginning of the thing that would become love, and both of them felt it land. "All right," Zeke said. "All right. Tomorrow, before first light, you ride with me." "Yes." "We do not take the main road." "No." "We tell nobody." "Nobody." "Magnolia." "Yes." "If something happens on the road, if we are ambushed, if I am killed, you take the letter and the jar, and you ride to Laramie alone. You do not come back for me. You do not stop. You ride." "Zeke, promise me." "I promise you." "Say it." "If you fall, I ride. I promise." He reached across the table then. Just his hand, palm up. He did not ask. He waited. Magnolia laid her hand in his, her palm against his palm, her fingers curling into the callus at the base of his thumb, and her wedding ring. The thin tin band he had bought for $1 from the justice of the peace, not 6 hours before, caught a sliver of lamplight and flashed once. "All right," he said. "All right." He let go. He stood up. He went to the cupboard and he took down a small tin of coffee and a sack of dried beef and a tin cup. And he began very quietly and very methodically to pack a saddlebag for a ride that might be the last ride of his life. Magnolia watched him. Then she stood up and she walked to the trunk at the foot of the bed, and she took out the pale blue dress with the tiny white buttons and she laid it on the bed. "Zeke." "Ma'am, I am going to ride tomorrow in your wife's dress, if that is all right with you. I have nothing else clean, and I believe she would rather I wore it than that it sat in a trunk." Zeke Thornfield stopped in the middle of tying a saddlebag. He did not turn around for a long moment. When he did, his eyes were wet. "Ma'am," he said, "my wife would be proud." Magnolia lowered her head, and somewhere in the night, a mile down the south fence line, the dog began to bark again, steady and low and furious, at the sound of 3 sets of hooves coming up the road that had no business being on Thornfield land at that hour, and would not belong to Tommy Peterson this time, and would not be turning back at the gate. The dog kept barking. "Zeke, how many?" "3 sounds like." "3. Blow out that lamp, ma'am, right now." She blew it out. The house went black. She heard him move across the room in the dark, sure-footed, as a man who had walked those floorboards for 34 years. "Magnolia. The shotgun above the mantel. Can you use it?" "My father taught me at 12. "Thank God. Take it. Both barrels loaded. 2 more shells in my vest pocket on the chair. You get them." "Zeke." "Ma'am, there is no time. You get behind the stove. You aim at the door. Anything come through that is not me you fire. You hear?" "I hear." "Say it." "Anything not you through that door I fire." "Good woman." Hooves at the gate. 3 sets. A voice called out loud, easy, the voice of a man who had done this before and expected no trouble. "Thornfield, come on out. We ain't here to cause problems." Zeke did not answer. "Thornfield, we know you're in there." Silence. "Thornfield, Mr. Ashford says we burn the barn if you don't come out. 5 minutes. Then the barn goes." Magnolia's heart stopped. "Zeke," she whispered. "The barn. Let it burn." "Zeke, the horses." "I turned them out to the south pasture when I drove Tommy back, every head. They are not in the barn, ma'am." She stared at him in the dark. He had known. He had known before Tommy Peterson was halfway down the drive. "Zeke Thornfield." "Not now, Magnolia. You knew they were coming tonight." "I suspected. I hoped I was wrong. I turned the horses out anyhow." "Thornfield," the voice called again. 4 minutes." Zeke raised the rifle to the window slit. He did not fire. He only watched. 3 men, he said quietly. One on the left by the water trough. One in the middle, the one doing the talking. One hanging back at the gate with a long coat. The one at the gate has a rifle across his saddle. The other two got torches. Torches. They mean it about the barn. Zeke. Ma'am? The one at the gate with the rifle. The long coat. Is that Creed? No, ma'am. That is a bigger man than Creed. Who? I cannot tell. But the horse he is on, Magnolia. The horse he is on is a gray with a black tail, and there is exactly one gray with a black tail in this county. Whose? Zeke did not answer for a beat. Sheriff Dalton's. Magnolia's knees nearly gave way. The sheriff, Zeke. The sheriff. The man you were going to... I know, ma'am. 3 minutes, Thornfield. Zeke's jaw set. Ma'am, listen close. This changes everything. This is not 3 men trying to scare a widower into selling his land. This is 3 men, one of them wearing a badge, come to burn down a ranch and shoot a man in his own yard and write it up as whatever they want it written up as. Zeke. We do not wait for dawn. Zeke. You are outnumbered 3-1 and... We do not wait for dawn, Magnolia. We ride in 4 minutes. You and me. You out the back window, you go to the south pasture, you whistle for the sorrel like I showed you. I will keep them busy. You bring that mare up to the back of the house and I come out the back. Zeke, they will shoot you. Then I will shoot first, ma'am. 2 minutes, Thornfield. Magnolia, go. Zeke. Magnolia Pearl, go. She went. She went out the back window with the shotgun under her arm and the letter folded against her heart beneath the pale blue dress that had belonged to a dead woman, and she ran. She ran on legs that had not run in 15 years. She ran on a full skirt and boots too tight and lungs that burned like a woman twice her age, and she did not stop. She put her fingers between her teeth the way Zeke had shown her, and she whistled sharp and high, and somewhere ahead of her, the sorrel mare lifted her head in the dark and came at a trot. The first shot split the night behind her. Magnolia did not look back. She swung the rope halter over the mare's neck, pulled herself up with a fistful of mane, and rode bareback the way her grandfather had taught her to ride when she was 7 years old and terrified of horses. She circled wide behind the house. The shotgun rested across her thighs. 2 more shots. Then a fourth. A man shouted. Not Zeke. A man shouted in the way a man shouts when something has happened he did not expect. Magnolia reached the back corner of the house. Zeke, get down against her neck. She got down. A bullet tore a splinter off the eaves above her head. Zeke, coming. He came around the corner at a dead run. Blood down the left side of his face, his rifle in one hand, the saddlebag in the other. Up behind me, she said. No time for the saddle. Up Zeke now. He threw the saddlebag across the mare's withers and swung up behind her. One arm going around her waist, the rifle still in his other hand, and the mare sprang forward before he had finished settling his weight. Which way? North. North is toward Laramie. North is also toward Ashford's house, Magnolia. They will expect south. Zeke, you are bleeding. Ride. She rode. Behind them, torchlight bloomed against the side of the barn, and the barn Zeke Thornfield's father had built in 1869 began slowly to burn. Zeke did not look back. They rode hard for 20 minutes. Magnolia in front, bent low over the mare's neck. Zeke behind her, one arm locked around her middle, the other cradling the rifle across his thigh. He was heavier against her back than he should have been, and she knew it, and she did not say anything yet. Zeke. Still here, ma'am. How bad? Grazed the scalp. Bleeds like the devil. Ain't deep. Zeke. Ma'am, I know my own head. It is a scalp wound. All right. Slow her to a walk. She will founder. She slowed the mare. The sorrel was blowing hard, her flanks heaving, but she was sound. They walked another mile. Zeke. Ma'am. Was that really Sheriff Dalton at the gate? It was his horse, Magnolia. I cannot swear to the man. But it was his horse. Then the law in this valley belongs to Ashford. Part of it. Maybe most of it. Not all of it. Judge Corwin. Judge Corwin. Zeke, how do you know Corwin is still Corwin? How do you know Ashford has not bought him too? A long quiet. I do not know, ma'am. I am betting my life and yours on a man my father trusted in 1871. That is all the bet I got. Zeke. Ma'am. That is enough bet for me. He pressed his forehead a brief second against the back of her shoulder. He did not say anything. He did not have to. They rode on. The first ambush came at the bridge. There was a single plank bridge over the dry wash at the north end of Thornfield's acreage, and a man cannot ride to Laramie from the Bar T without crossing it. Zeke knew it. Ashford knew he knew it. Magnolia felt Zeke go stiff behind her 100 yards out. Stop, he whispered. She stopped. Listen. She listened. Cicadas, the wind through the cottonwoods, the mare's breath, and then small and wrong the sound of a horse shifting its weight on the far side of the bridge. Just one small sound. The kind of sound a man makes when he has been holding a horse still for a long time, and the horse has gotten tired of standing. They got a man at the bridge, Zeke breathed. One man. One horse, maybe 2 men on foot with him. Zeke. Dismount. Quiet. They dismounted. He led the mare off the track into a stand of cottonwood and tied her reins loose to a branch. He put his mouth beside Magnolia's ear. You take the shotgun. You stay here with her. You do not move. You do not come forward. If you hear me fire, you wait for my voice. If you hear me fire, and then silence you, take the mare, and you ride south along the wash until you hit the ranch road, and you go to the Davies place, and you tell Ellen Davies I sent you, and that she is to ride you to Laramie herself. You hear me? Zeke, Magnolia, do you hear me? I hear you. I'm going to walk up on him through the brush. I will have 1 shot. If I miss, I have a second in the chamber. If he has a man with him, I will have to find that out the hard way. Zeke, let me come with you. 2 guns is better than... No. Zeke. You are carrying the letter, ma'am. You are carrying the jar. You are not getting shot tonight. Not at a bridge. Not for me. She could not argue. She knew he was right. Go, she whispered. Go quick. He went. Magnolia stood in the cottonwoods with the shotgun against her shoulder, and she counted. She counted because her grandfather had told her once, a long time ago, that a person waiting on somebody they loved had to count or they would go crazy. And it did not matter what you counted, it only mattered that you did. She counted to 94. The rifle shot split the night. She flinched so hard she nearly dropped the shotgun. She did not drop it. She brought it up. She waited. Silence. 1 heartbeat. 2. 3. Magnolia. Zeke's voice. Alive. Angry. Magnolia, bring her up quick now. She untied the mare with shaking hands and led her at a trot up the track. Zeke was at the foot of the bridge. 1 man on the ground at his feet, face down, not moving. A second man, younger, on his knees, with his hands on top of his head and his hat on the planks beside him. Magnolia, this one wants to talk. This. Mr. Thornfield, sir. I swear to God, I swear on my mother, I did not know what... Shut your mouth, boy. I will let you know when I want to hear it. Zeke's rifle was pressed against the back of the young man's neck. His face was still streaked with blood from the scalp wound. He did not look like the man who had knelt on a train platform 6 hours before and asked a crying stranger if she would take his arm. He looked like something else. Ma'am, Zeke said without turning his head. You come look at this boy. Magnolia came. The boy on his knees could not have been 19 years old. He had freckles across his nose. He was crying. Mr. Thornfield, sir, please. Boy, look at the lady. The boy looked up. Boy, you look at her. You look at the lady I just married today. You look at her good. And you tell her why you were hid behind that rock with a rifle waiting for me and mine to ride across this bridge tonight. Sir, tell her. Mr. Ashford said... Said what? Said we was to stop you on the bridge, sir, and what boy? The boy was sobbing now. And shoot the both of you, sir, and say it was Indians. Magnolia closed her eyes. Zeke. I heard him, ma'am. Zeke. He is a boy. He is a boy with a rifle who was going to put a hole in my wife tonight. Zeke. A long silence. Boy, Zeke said. Get up. Sir, get up. Slow. Hands on top of your head. You walk ahead of me to that tree. You sit down with your back against that tree. I am going to tie you to it with your own belt. Somebody will find you by morning. If you move before I am done, you are going to die. Nod if you hear me. The boy nodded. Zeke tied him. He was efficient and he was cold, and when he was done, the boy was bound hand and foot with his own belt and a length of rawhide from the saddlebag, and he was weeping quietly against the bark. Boy. Sir? Your name? Eli, sir. Eli Crane. Eli Crane, the man on the ground. Who is he? He is my uncle, sir. Your uncle? My Uncle Merle, sir. He is the one who made me come. I swear it, sir. I swear on my mother he is the one who— Is he dead, Eli? The boy could not look. Zeke walked over to the body on the planks. He knelt. He put 2 fingers on the man's neck. He stayed that way for a long moment. Dead, he said. The boy made a sound that was not quite a word. Zeke came back. He stood in front of the boy for a long moment. Eli Crane. Sir, I am not going to kill you tonight. I am going to leave you tied to that tree. When they find you, you are going to tell the truth. You are going to tell them Bartholomew Ashford paid your uncle to kill 2 people tonight, and you were made to come along. Do you hear me? Sir, he will kill my ma. Zeke went very still. Your ma, Eli. Yes, sir. He holds my ma's note on her place. He said if I did not come tonight, he would put her out. I did not want to come, sir. I did not want— Eli. Yes, sir. Where is your ma's place? 9 miles east of Cheyenne, sir. Little place. 60 acres. Your ma's name? Ruby. Ruby Crane, sir. Zeke looked at Magnolia. Magnolia looked at Zeke. Eli. Sir. You are going to live through tonight. And when you do, you are going to tell the truth to Judge Corwin in Laramie. You are going to tell it the way you just told it to me. You understand me? Yes, sir. And if you do that, boy, I am going to buy your mother's note off Ashford's estate the day it goes up, and I am going to hand it to her free and clear. You hear? The boy could not speak. He nodded. Good. Zeke stood. He walked back to the mare. He swung up behind Magnolia without a word. They rode across the bridge at a walk. Magnolia did not look at the body. She could not. Once they were a mile beyond the bridge, she spoke. Zeke. Ma'am. You killed a man tonight. Yes, ma'am. How are you? A long silence. Ma'am, I have killed before. In the war. A long time ago. I promised my wife I would not do it again. She made me promise. Eliza. Eliza. Zeke. Ma'am, Eliza is dead because I did not know what she knew. I have broken a promise tonight I made to a woman who is dead. I will answer for that at the throne of God one day. I am not going to answer for it to you. Zeke, I was not asking you to answer to me. I know it. I was asking how you were. He did not speak for almost a full minute. Ma'am, he said finally, I am tired. I know it. I am tired all the way down. I know it, Zeke. And I am not done tonight. No, sir, you are not. They rode on. The scalp wound had stopped bleeding, but Zeke was slumped against her back now in a way he had not been an hour before. She could feel the weight of him. She could feel how he was fighting it. Zeke. Ma'am, we are going to stop at the next water. I am going to wash that head. Do not argue with me. Ma'am? Zeke Amos Thornfield. All right, ma'am. They stopped at a creek 20 minutes later. She used a piece of her torn wedding dress, which she had torn further along the hem for the purpose, and she washed the blood from his face with cold creek water and her own 2 shaking hands. Zeke, Ma'am? The boy at the bridge. You let him live. Yes, ma'am. You did not have to. I know that, Magnolia. Why? A pause. Because my daddy used to say a man who kills when he does not have to is a man who has stopped believing in the judgment of the Lord. I believe in that judgment, ma'am. I have to. It is most of what I got left. She pressed the wet cloth against his temple, and her throat closed up. Zeke. Ma'am. I am going to tell you something, and you are not going to answer it. You are just going to hear it and ride. All right. I did not know what kind of man I married today. Magnolia. Hush. I am not finished. All right. I did not know what kind of man I married today. I said yes on a train platform because I had nowhere else to go. I said yes to a stranger in a dusty hat because I was kneeling in the dirt in a torn dress and he gave me his arm. I said yes to save myself, Zeke Thornfield. I did not say yes for love. I did not say yes for any reason a woman ought to say yes. Magnolia. I am not finished. I said I would ride to Laramie with you tonight because that man bought me like a length of rope, and I will not have it. I said it out of my own pride. I said it so that when I look back at my life one day, I can say I did not sit in that house and let a man ride alone. I said it for me, Zeke, not for you. All right, ma'am. But I am telling you now, Zeke Thornfield, that between the time we left that house and the time we crossed that bridge, something changed in me that I cannot take back. And I do not know yet what it is. And I am not asking you to know either. I am just telling you, sir, so that when this night is over, however it ends, you will know I rode the last miles for a different reason than I rode the first. She took the cloth away from his temple. She waited. Zeke Thornfield sat very still on the back of his own horse. Ma'am, he said finally, get back up. That is all you got. That is all I got for tonight, Magnolia. All right. She got back up. He settled behind her. His arm went around her middle. It was tighter than it had been before. She did not say anything about it. He did not say anything about it. They rode. Laramie was 60 miles on. They made 40 of them before a single rider on a fast bay horse came up behind them at a full gallop on the Laramie road, just before first light, and Zeke went for his rifle, and the rider threw up one hand and called in the voice of a woman, not a man. Thornfield, don't shoot. It's Ellen Davies. You're Ellen Davies. Thornfield, you stop that horse right now. I rode all night. Thornfield, your barn is still burning, and Sheriff Dalton is dead in your yard, and Judge Corwin got a telegram from somebody this morning, and he is already riding toward the valley with 6 marshals, and Thornfield. Oh, Lord. Thornfield, the Peterson boy is gone. Somebody took him from his mother's cabin 2 hours ago, and the note pinned to the door said they will trade him for that letter, and they want the trade at noon. The mare stopped. Magnolia's hand went to her chest, and Zeke Thornfield, in a voice she had not heard him use once all night, said very quietly, Ellen, say that last part again. Zeke, I said Tommy Peterson is gone. Somebody took him from Ruth's cabin at 3 a.m. The note said a trade. The letter for the boy, noon today, at the old Kensington stock pens. Zeke did not move for a long moment. Ellen. Yes, Zeke. Dalton is dead. Shot in your yard, Zeke. Shot by one of his own men, near as we can tell. Nobody is saying what happened. Your barn is ashes. Your house is still standing. The whole valley is awake. Corwin. Corwin is coming. 6 marshals out of Laramie. Federal men. They were already riding before I left. Somebody wired him at 4 o'clock this morning from the Cheyenne telegraph office, and the telegraph operator swears it was not a man he recognized. Zeke's arm tightened around Magnolia's waist. Ma'am, he said very low against the back of her shoulder. It was you. What? The telegraph. At 4 o'clock. It was you. Zeke, I have not been near a telegraph office since... No, ma'am. I mean, somebody did that because of you. Because of what you carry in that bodice right now. Somebody in that valley saw us ride, and somebody in that valley decided last night that they were tired of being afraid of Bartholomew Ashford, and somebody in that valley rode to Cheyenne in the dark. Ruth Peterson, Magnolia whispered. Ellen Davies from the back of her bay horse nodded slowly. Ruth rode to Cheyenne last night, Zeke. She came back before dawn. She told me herself 2 hours ago when she banged on my door screaming because Tommy was gone. Zeke closed his eyes. She traded her son for my wife's letter. Zeke. She rode to the telegraph, and she sent a wire to Corwin, and she did it because I told that boy last night to tell her anything she heard, and she heard Ashford's men ride out for the bridge, and she put it together, and she rode, and while she was gone, they took her child. Zeke. We cannot. Magnolia. Yes. I am going to ride to those stock pens at noon. I know it. I am going to make that trade. Zeke. Magnolia. You are not making that trade. Ma'am. Zeke Amos Thornfield. You are not handing that letter to Bartholomew Ashford in exchange for a boy. Magnolia. Hush. Listen to me. If you hand him that letter, he burns it. He walks. Ruth Peterson buried her husband for nothing. Your wife died for nothing. That boy on the bridge last night got his uncle killed for nothing. Everything we did in the dark, Zeke, everything is for nothing. And Tommy Peterson goes home only if Bartholomew Ashford decides to let him go home. And we both know that man has never let anything go home that he can keep. Silence. Ma'am, he will kill the boy if we do not bring the letter. He will kill the boy if we do. Zeke's hand had curled into a fist against her side. Then what, Magnolia? Then what are we to do? We are going to show him the letter, Zeke, from 50 feet. We are going to show him the letter, and we are going to tell him Judge Corwin is 40 minutes behind us with 6 federal marshals. And we are going to tell him that the only choice he has left in this world is whether Tommy Peterson walks out of those pens alive. We are going to tell him that we did not come to trade. We came to watch him decide. Magnolia Pearl. Zeke, that is a bluff against a man who has killed 2 people we know of and arranged to kill more. It is not a bluff, Zeke. Corwin is coming. We do not know how fast. Ellen. Ellen Davies straightened in her saddle. How fast is Corwin? Corwin was already on the road when I left, ma'am. He will beat noon. I will swear it. He is an old man, and he is ornery, and he has been waiting 2 years for a reason to ride on Ashford, and he has got one now. Zeke. I hear you, Magnolia. We ride to the pens, not to trade, to hold. Corwin will come. A long silence. All right, ma'am. All right. Ellen. Yes, Zeke. You turn that bay around. You meet Corwin on the road. You tell him Ashford is at the Kensington stock pens with a hostage. You tell him to come quiet and quick. You tell him my wife and I are holding the line until he gets there. Zeke, I can come with you. Ellen Davies. You turn that horse around and you ride. You have done more tonight than any friend I have ever had. You ride. She rode. Zeke and Magnolia pushed the sorrel mare hard for the last hour before noon. Zeke did not speak. Magnolia did not ask him to. His arm stayed locked around her middle, and she could feel his breath against the back of her neck. Uneven, angry grieving, all of it at once. They came up on the old Kensington stock pens from the east at 11 minutes past the hour. Magnolia saw them first. 5 horses tied at the rail, 4 men standing. 1 small figure seated on the ground against the near post, bound at the wrists, head down. Bartholomew Ashford in his black broadcloth coat, standing at the center of them, pocket watch open in his hand. Zeke. I see them, ma'am. 4 men. 4 men, and Ashford makes 5. That boy is alive. His head moved. Thank God. Zeke. Ma'am. If this goes wrong. It is not going to go wrong, Magnolia. If it does, you take the letter, you ride. I will have the shotgun across my lap, and I will buy you the time. Magnolia Pearl Thornfield, if you think I am riding off this property without you, you have not been listening to a word I have said for 36 hours. Zeke? Ma'am? All right. They rode in at a walk. Bartholomew Ashford's pocket watch snapped shut. Thornfield, you are early. Ashford. And you brought your charming wife. How fitting. Let the boy go, Ashford. The boy goes when I have the letter in my hand, Thornfield. The boy goes when I have the jar in my hand. The boy goes when I am satisfied there are no copies. The boy does not go 1 minute before. Magnolia drew in one long, slow breath. She felt Zeke's thumb press once firmly against her ribs. "Mr. Ashford," she said. Ashford's eyes moved to her. He smiled. It was a smile she had seen the day before in the doorway of the freight office, and it had frightened her then, and it did not frighten her now. "Mrs. Thornfield, I have a letter in my dress, Mr. Ashford. It is written in your late neighbor's hand. It is signed by her. It names you. It names Dr. Holbrook. It describes a conversation overheard in the back room of the Mercantile on the evening of the 6th of September, 1894. It describes a bottle of brown medicine that was delivered to her house by the doctor the morning of her death. I have a jar of that medicine in my saddlebag, Mr. Ashford. It is sealed with candle wax in your neighbor's own hand. It has not been opened in 2 years. Ashford's smile did not change, but something behind his eyes did. "Mrs. Thornfield, I do not know what fairy story you have convinced yourself of, but, Mr. Ashford, I am not finished." He closed his mouth. "Judge Henry Corwin of Laramie is 40 minutes behind us on this road with 6 federal marshals. He received a telegram at 4 o'clock this morning from a woman whose name I will not speak on this ground. He has been waiting 2 years for a reason to ride on you. He has got one now. He is coming, Mr. Ashford, and he is coming very fast." "You are lying, madam." "I am not lying, sir. I do not know how. Ask my husband." Ashford's eyes flicked to Zeke. Zeke said quietly, "She does not lie, Ashford. She told me her real age on the day we married. She could not even lie about that." Ashford took one step backward. His 4 men were looking at each other now. One of them shifted his hand away from his pistol. Another took half a step back from the post. "Mr. Ashford," Magnolia said, "I did not ride all night to trade you this letter. I rode all night to tell you this. You have 1 minute left in this world to decide whether that boy walks out of this pen on his own 2 feet. If he walks out, I will ask Judge Corwin to remember that in his charging. If he does not walk out, I will ask Judge Corwin to hang you, Mr. Ashford, and Judge Corwin will do it, because Judge Corwin was my father-in-law's closest friend for 30 years, and I carry a letter in my dress from a woman he loved like a daughter." Ashford's face had gone gray. "You are bluffing." "Listen, Mr. Ashford." Silence. And from the south road, faint but unmistakable and growing, came the sound of hooves. Many hooves. A column at a steady trot. Ashford heard it. His 4 men heard it. One of them said, "Boss," and Ashford snapped, "Shut up, Creed." And that was the moment Magnolia Pearl Thornfield knew the man had broken. "Untie the boy," she said. "Mrs. Thornfield, untie him, Mr. Ashford. The marshals are 4 minutes out. You have a choice to make, and you have about 2 minutes in which to make it. If that boy is still tied to that post when those marshals come through that gate, you will not see the inside of a courtroom. You will see the inside of a rope. I give you my word." Ashford looked at his men. His men were already backing away. "Creed," Ashford snapped. "Untie him." "Yes, boss." Creed moved fast. He cut the rawhide at Tommy's wrists with a pocket knife, and he did it carefully, because Creed had already made a calculation about his own future, and it did not involve Bartholomew Ashford. Tommy Peterson stood up. His legs were shaking. His hands were bleeding from the rawhide. His face was streaked with dirt. "Tommy, walk toward me, son. Slow. Do not run." The boy walked. He walked past Ashford. He walked past Creed. He walked the 30 feet to where Zeke had dismounted, and when he was within arm's reach, Zeke picked him up bodily and set him on the back of the mare behind Magnolia, and the boy pressed his face against Magnolia's shoulder and began to cry silently in the way a child cries when he has been trying for hours not to. "Tommy." "Yes, ma'am." "Your mother is safe, son. Your mother rode to Cheyenne last night to save a ranch she does not own, and she is safe, and she will hold you in her arms before sundown." The hoofbeats were loud now. Ashford turned. His hand went slowly to the pistol at his hip. Ashford. Don't. Thornfield, I swear to God. Ashford. You draw that pistol, and a federal marshal will put you down in the dirt of your own property within the minute. You keep your hand still, and you may live to hear the charges read. Ashford's hand trembled on the grip. Bartholomew, Magnolia said. He looked at her. My husband's wife died of a fever she did not have. My husband's neighbor fell off a roof he did not fall off of. A boy on a bridge last night was sent to kill us and is now tied to a tree, waiting to tell a judge your name. The telegraph operator in Cheyenne knows your face. Ruth Peterson knows your sideboard. The station master in town watched you pay $3 for a train ticket that was supposed to end in my death. You are not a frightening man anymore, Mr. Ashford. You are a man who has been seen. His hand came off this pistol. The marshals came through the gate. 6 men in dark coats, rifles across their saddles, and riding at the head of the column, Judge Henry Corwin of Laramie, 71 years old, white-bearded, and looking for the first time in 2 years like a man who had stopped waiting. Bartholomew Ashford. Your Honor, you are under arrest on the charges of conspiracy to commit murder-kidnapping of a minor attempted murder of a federal material witness and a good number of other things I will enjoy reading to you at length. Hands where the marshals can see them. Ashford raised his hands. He was still raising them when the oldest of the marshals, a man named Halloran, took the pistol from his belt and the derringer from his vest pocket and the small folding blade from his boot. Judge Corwin, sir. Thornfield. Sir, my wife has a letter for you. Corwin looked at Magnolia. He looked at the pale blue dress. He looked at her face. He looked at her a long moment, and his eyes filled, and he blinked it away like a man blinking away a fly. Ma'am, he said, you are Eliza Thornfield's successor in that dress. Yes, sir. Ma'am, I am obliged to you. All of us are obliged to you. Sir, the letter is hers. I am only the one carrying it. Ma'am, that is the same thing as carrying her, and you know it. Magnolia could not answer him. She handed him the letter. Corwin read it standing where he was. He read it twice. And when he was finished, the old judge took off his hat, and he held it against his chest the way a man holds it in church, and he stood that way for a long time. Halloran. Yes, Your Honor. You take Mr. Ashford to Laramie. You do not let him out of your sight. You do not let him speak to a soul. You do not feed him from a plate he did not see prepared. Dr. Holbrook is to be taken into custody before the sun is down today. I want 4 marshals on that. Yes, sir. And Halloran. Sir. This letter does not leave my person until it is in the hands of the territorial court. I will sleep with it under my pillow if I have to. Yes, sir. They took Ashford away. Creed went with them willingly and talked the whole way. By the time the column reached Laramie, Creed had named 14 men and 4 crimes and 2 arson fires, and the record-keeper's hand was cramping. Zeke and Magnolia and Tommy Peterson rode home slowly. They stopped at the Davies place for an hour, and Ellen fed them, and Ruth Peterson, who had ridden from Cheyenne on a borrowed mule, came through the door and saw her son alive and went to her knees on the kitchen floor, and Tommy ran to her, and for a long moment no person in that kitchen could speak. When Ruth could, she took Magnolia's hand. Mrs. Thornfield. Ruth. You carried my boy home. Your boy carried himself home, Ruth. Mrs. Thornfield, I sent my son to a burning ranch last night. I will answer for that to the Lord one day. I will not pretend I won't. Ruth Peterson, you sent your son to warn my husband, and then you rode to Cheyenne to save a ranch that is not yours, and you did it carrying a grief I cannot imagine, and you did it alone. You will answer to the Lord, ma'am, and he will say, well done. Ruth pressed Magnolia's hand against her forehead and wept. They rode home after that. The barn was gone. The house was standing. The dog came out from under the porch and barked at them, then recognized them, then went quiet, and Zeke knelt down and put his hands on the dog's head and stayed that way for a full minute. Zeke. Ma'am. Come inside, please. He came inside. She boiled water. She washed the dried blood out of his hair. She cleaned the scalp wound, which was shallow, as he had said, and which would leave a thin white line above his left ear for the rest of his life. She bandaged it. She fed him. He ate 3 plates and did not say a word. When the plates were cleared, he stood up. Magnolia. Zeke. I am going to sleep on the floor tonight. All right. I am going to sleep on the floor tonight because I have not earned the other yet, ma'am. Zeke. Ma'am, you have earned every inch of this house and every hour of my life. You have earned it 3 times over since the sun came up yesterday. I am not asking you to the bed tonight. I am not asking you to it for a long time, maybe. We are going to go slow, Zeke Thornfield. We are going to go very slow, because we are strangers who got married in a hurry, and because your wife is in the ground, and because I am a woman who does not yet know what I look like standing on my own 2 feet. But I am telling you that the floor is not a punishment in this house, and will never be one. And when you sleep on it tonight, sir, you sleep on it because it is what you choose, and not because it is what I have left you with. Zeke Thornfield stood in the middle of his own kitchen, and his eyes filled. Ma'am. Zeke. All right. He slept on the floor that night. She slept in the bed. And in the morning she made biscuits, and he ate them, and he told her they were the best he had ever eaten, and this time she believed him. Bartholomew Ashford was hanged in Laramie on the 14th of November, 1896. Dr. Holbrook took his own life in his cell the night before. The Ashford land was divided by order of the territorial court, and the deeds of the Petersons and the Wallaces, and the old Dutch couple that used to keep bees were returned to their living heirs, free and clear, with the compliments of Judge Henry Corwin. Ruby Crane kept her 60 acres outside Cheyenne. Her son Eli rode with Zeke Thornfield for 3 summers after, and he became a good hand, and he named his first son Thornfield. The Bar T paid its note to the bank on the 29th of August, 1895, with 11 days to spare, out of a reward that Judge Corwin insisted on pressing into Magnolia's hand in the courthouse hallway. She gave most of it away. She and Zeke rebuilt the barn that autumn. They built a new henhouse the spring after. They built a 2nd bedroom onto the house in the spring of '97. By the time their daughter was born in the summer of '98, they had been sleeping in the same bed for 14 months, and they had come to it slowly, as she had said they would, and it had been worth every night of the waiting. They named her Eliza Pearl. Ruth Peterson was godmother. Tommy Peterson was 8 years old and carried the baby's blanket at the christening with the seriousness of a man of 40. 10 summers after that first August on the platform, a young woman stepped off the 315 in a dress that was clean but plain, and she stood at the edge of the platform with one small carpet bag, and she looked around for a face that was not coming, and her chin began to tremble. Magnolia Pearl Thornfield, who had come into town that day for a sack of flour and a pound of coffee, set down both her parcels. She walked across the platform. She did not hurry. She took her time. She was a woman of 37 now, and she had borne 2 children, and she had buried her second one at 6 months, and she had risen every morning anyway, and she moved through the world like a woman who had been taught by hard hands what her own weight was worth. She knelt down on one knee beside the young woman, and she did not touch her. "Ma'am," she said, "my name is Magnolia Thornfield. Folks call me Nola. I would like to offer you my arm if you will take it. The boards here are awful hard on a lady's knees." The young woman looked up. "You don't know me, ma'am." "No, I don't." "Then why are you—" "Because somebody did it for me once. And because a person's worth is not decided by who is willing to stand beside them. A person's worth is decided by the person themselves, and everybody else is just catching up or falling behind. I would like ma'am to be catching up." The young woman's eyes filled. She reached out one trembling hand and laid it in Magnolia's. Magnolia Pearl Thornfield rose, and she brought the stranger with her, and she walked her off that platform, the way a man in a dusty hat had once walked her off it, and she did not let go until the young woman asked her to. And that, friend, is how a woman who was called too fat by a coward on a train platform became the woman who decided for the rest of her natural life exactly who was worth standing beside and exactly who was not. She was not rescued by a man. She was met by one. And the difference between those two things is the whole of this story, and it is the whole of every life worth the living of it. And any woman watching this tonight who has ever been told she was too much or not enough or the wrong shape or the wrong age or the wrong anything at all, you hear me now and you hear me clear. Your worth was never theirs to assign. It was yours from the hour you drew breath, and it is yours still. And it will be yours when the last of them is dust.